So, hello Kenneth.
Hello, Isaiah.
How you doing?
I'm good. I hope everyone here is good.
Yes. So originally what we planned for is a debate between Kenneth Chiu and Kenneth Peake. However, Mr. Peake kind of declined last minute. Danny said he never declined officially, but from my conversation, he kind of declined. But here we are, so it's not going to be a debate, it's going to be more of like a fireside chat of sorts. So, Kenneth, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you, Isaiah. I want to thank Daniel and Central Queens Republican Club for hosting this debate and keeping the monthly meetings going on despite elections. This year is going to be a big election. My name is Kenneth Chiu. I'm born and raised New Yorker, originally from Lower East Side Chinatown, and then in Brooklyn in the last 6 years in Queens. I didn't choose politics. I got into politics in 2012 during Superstorm Sandy. At that time in my life, I had no time, finances were okay, so I went to volunteer. Little did I know that volunteerism became 3 months, 6 months, a year. Next thing you know, it's 12 years. I don't know what my first political boss, for lack of a better word, Assemblyman Felix Ortiz saw in me. I was a Superstorm Sandy relief effort recruiter and organizer down in Red Hook, Brooklyn. And to be completely honest, I didn't even know where Red Hook was. But when I contacted my friend, hey, I got a little time, I'd like to help. Oh, come on down to Red Hook. Where's Red Hook? You pass by every single day to work to Manhattan. So yeah, it's at that time it was very rewarding. I saw directly how relief effort, how people coming together, the community coming together, despite the lack of government support. It was the early days after the storm. The army was not there yet. The Red Cross was not there. Just a bunch of people scrambling, contacting the local church, the Salvation Army, the small businesses, grabbing whatever they can get, flashlights, blankets, whatever, and just coming together. Pharmacies opened their pharmacies, okay, giving out medication, whatever they have. So I saw how powerful that meant, and that really kept me in government, because there has been a few times where I wanted to quit and just go back to my old life. And for transparency reason, I was a Democrat until last December. 2 years ago, when I ran for New York State Assembly in Assembly District 40, which is downtown Flushing, community leaders recruited me to challenge some left-wing Ron Kim instead of back in my district. They were telling me Ron Kim was a monster, someone gotta take a good fight. So I put in the fight, I lost by 62 votes. This year, there are other candidates taking on Ron Kim, so I decided to return back to my home district, Assembly District 25. And how I got to District 25, about 6 years ago in 2018, we were fighting the city and the state from changing the specialized high school entrance exam, as well as changing, trying to kill gifted and talented programs. I'm more for merit-based education, and we fought, and we succeeded. But at that time, the parents in Queens, they needed an organizer to help them. So these leaders, they drafted me to come up to Queens. And initially, I was very reluctant to come to Queens, because back and forth from Brooklyn and Queens is a 4-hour trip during rush hour. But I have come to love my district in Casita Park, so much so that I'm running. And what else? I've been in the community and in government for almost 20 years. Initially, I trained individuals with mental retardation and developmental disability for 8 years. And then I worked in the Assembly, in the City Council, and in the Senate. Throughout that time, and this Democrat thing, I know it's going to continue to come up. A lot of people have asked, for as long as I've been a part of the Democratic Party, I've been fighting them just as long. On shelters, SHSAT, kicking the sex offenders out from freshman at Wyndham Garden when Blasio, during COVID, issued an emergency order and placed 109 individuals from Rikers Island into Fresh Meadow without notifying our community. Doing it late June, and I know how they work this. They usually the nastiest stuff. They bring it up late June when people are ready to go on vacation. By the time you return back from vacation or you're ready to take your kids back to school, you get shocked knowing that there's a shelter or a refugee camp is in a district. That's where they like to slip it in when you're not aware. And so, yeah, I've been fighting them for a long time. And I want to shout out to Assemblymember Lester Chen. 2 years ago, after I lost, Lester Chen had been lobbying me to Kenny. You've been speaking to Democrats for 12 years. They haven't been listening. Why don't you make your life simple and come on board to help us? Join the party. Let's build the party from the ground up. We need good people like you. So he kept on lobbying and advocating. I finally said, you know what? Let's do this. Because I didn't get into politics to have a career in politics. I wanted to see real change on the ground. Earlier, someone said that Republicans were not visible enough in the community. I have to agree. A lot of people don't really care about politics. They care about who they see in their community, at the food pantry. It might be retail politics or whatever you want to call it, but that's how normal people relate. Normal people, they don't want to hear about a lot of these races, the history, who's good, who's bad, who's lying, who's not. They don't know. They don't know the difference. Maybe they're thinking both sides are lying. They just want to go about their business, So we need to make sure we meet them at where they are. If they need help, assist them. And then throughout those opportunities, we can educate them slowly. Bring them, hey, this is going on. This affects your change. Like, what are they teaching in our schools? DEI, CRT, sex change. Why is that happening in education? A lot of these parents, especially in my community where there's majority immigrants, they don't have the time to sit down every single night to go through what their children are learning. But that's what they're teaching. I thank you. I thank Daniel and Isaiah for giving me this opportunity to speak before you. Thank you.
All right. Very good. Well, first I'd like to welcome you to the greener side of politics. Even if the cattle are a little meaner, but you mentioned one good person, Lester Chang. He's also a good friend of mine, and I'm glad he convinced you to join us. So, I prepared a series of 10 questions, maybe a little more. These questions were made for both you and Mr. Peake, but since he's not here tonight, maybe he can answer them on his own time. So, my first question, Assemblywoman Natalie Rosner. What a woman. She has served 5 terms in the Assembly, prioritizing economic development, social justice, and government transparency, according to her website. Do you believe these priorities have been misplaced, and what will you do differently if elected to the Assembly?
I haven't done enough opposition research on her. That may or may not be the priority when she first ran, but I believe, especially for elected representative, our priority should be the people's priority. And times change, things change, and our priorities do change. And right now, not just right now, but for the last several years at least, our priority is public safety. We have seen on the city level as well as the state level how they are handcuffing our police officers, law enforcement, and it's not just bail reform. The discovery process, as well as how they can arrest people, and that's trickled down deep into the system. It will take some time to continue to fight that, because I think I'm pretty confident that most people know, and an officer here too. I know many officers within the 109 and the 111. They're demoralized. They spend hours and hours getting video clips, testimony, whatnot. They send it over to the district attorney's office. Them taking less than a minute, say, this is not a priority. We're gonna let them sign off and just let them walk. And this, people don't really understand. If you look down the road, we are breeding monsters. There are several incidents in Chinatown and in Manhattan, Asian women, where the perpetrator, one was arrested 26 times, the other one was arrested 36 times. Like, I love this country. We do believe in second chances, because a lot of them, after they serve their time, they come back. They're our neighbors. They're part of our community. But at what point enough is enough? Like 20, 30 times? And today they might be shoplifting. Tomorrow they might be having bar fights. And then it continues. They get more bold, they get more confident. Next thing you know, they think they're invincible. So we have to put a stop to it. Whatever Lenny Rosen's priority was, is certainly not the current priority of our district.
Very good. All right. Now, another priority that some people might have today is the ongoing migrant crisis, or as some would call it, the illegal migrant crisis. Illegal migrants have poured into the city in droves, straining the city's budget and resources over time. For a brief period of time, there was even a migrant shelter at the Chiu motor inn, which is, I believe, at the southern panhandle of your district. With illegal migrants continuing to come into the city, what actions will you take to address the crisis? And additionally, what can you do to stop the cartels that are kind of, forcing this problem to come to the city?
First and foremost, this is a federally manufactured crisis. A manufactured humanitarian crisis, a manufactured immigrant crisis. For 1 second, I don't want to say, okay, should we or should not allow them in. The federal government knows exactly how many people are across the border. If the moment they decide to let them in, they should have provided housing or whatever they need to settle them down, including background checks. But no, they did not. They allowed them in. So now we don't know these millions of people coming across the borders. We don't know who they are, where they come from. They're in our country. They're crisscrossing New York to California, Minnesota to Mississippi. We can't control that, and we cannot run a country like that. We cannot run our own household like that. So the first thing I would do is speak to like-minded assembly members and senators at the state level to potentially sue the federal government for every single dime that the city and the state is sacked with. Because our budgets, the way how we tax our citizens in New York, it was not in our budget. Nobody asked us. We're just forced to. Whether there's a right to shelter law or not, of course we don't want people on the street, but one way or another, we're paying for it, and we need to hold the federal government accountable, and they should not be here. We should go back to the old immigration system where refugees and asylum seekers, they go to their consulate or embassy in their country or nearby country, not by going through the Mexican border up to America. And we need to, I hope Donald Trump and our federal government will speak to Mexico, because Mexico have very strict illegal migrant laws. You get caught in Mexico, it's an automatic 10 years. Automatic in the jail, 10 years. So if they're coming across the southern border, we need to have an honest conversation with Mexico and say, hey, you're our neighbor. Every year we allow many Mexicans to come to our country with refugee visas. It's fine. But now, these individuals coming through your border into the United States, that they're creating chaos. So I want to help you. I want you to help us to help you. So we have a quota. Let's just say 500,000 people. So we don't care if they're Mexicans or Chinese or from the Middle East or from whatever. So long as they're coming from a southern border, once that quota hits, cut off. Let Mexico deal with it, because it is their responsibility. They're coming through Mexico. So that's what I would advocate for. That's what I would hope Donald Trump, when he gets elected, that's the first thing I hope he does.
You mentioned Donald Trump, kind of a controversial figure. Do you support Donald Trump? Do you hope he gets back into office?
In all honesty, there's sometimes when I read about it online or on my phone or on paper, I have this kind of moment. I don't always like the wording he uses or how he says it, but on principle, he's absolutely correct. I know a lot of people are uncomfortable. I have a lot of friends that are not comfortable with the language he uses, but I look beyond the language. The fact of the matter is, what we're dealing with, what these Democrats, especially progressive left-wing Democrats, are doing is not right. So yes, I would support Donald Trump for president.
Glad to hear it. All right, now let's roll over to another topic, housing. With rising costs for both renting and buying a house, the burdens are crushing families and destroying dreams of buying a home. What measures will you take in helping bring down these costs?
During COVID, when de Blasio and then Eric Adams and Hochul, and more before that, Cuomo, there was a rent freeze, there was an eviction freeze, there was assistance for tenants, which was needed, but there was no assistance for homeowners. Because they think all these homeowners are millionaires or billionaires, but they forget to realize that they have mortgages. They have bills too. They have water bills, property taxes, you name it. And we were advocating and fighting. Luckily, the state government did create ERAP, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, and funded it $25 million. It was not anywhere near enough, but it was better than nothing. At that time, I co-founded and part of two housing groups. A lot of people don't know right now with the current housing laws, a lot of homeowners don't want to rent. There's a whole black market within the Asian community. They're not renting it publicly. They're not advertising it. If you want to rent it, it must come with a referral because they're afraid that one bad tenant move in that don't pay their rent, take them to housing court. They would lose not only 5 years' time, but also have to pay the legal fees and all the headaches and damages. So we have to undo some of these housing laws. It's way too strict, and because of those laws, it's creating chaos within the housing stock. We also need to advocate the city to expand housing court. The city, they know how many hundreds of thousands of cases that are backlogged. They know if they decide to expand housing court, it will speed up. We should expedite eviction cases. It not only helps homeowners, but it also helps tenants. Nobody should have to go through the system for 2-3 years, okay, not knowing if are they going to stay or are they going to go, especially if they have seniors in their house or children. So yeah, that's where I would start first.
Now, a follow-up question. Assemblywoman Natalie Roslick recently advocated for a rent freeze in regards to I believe the rent board's guideline, wanting to increase rents or the maximal allowed rents. Do you support something like that? Freezing the increases in rent, or is that something the rent board's guidelines should continue to enforce?
That's another city-regulated issue. To be honest, I'm not overly familiar with where it stands right now. I've been campaigning. But what I do want to do
Just to let you know, they already voted on it.
Oh, okay. What I do want to see is, some people don't realize it. In New York City, your property taxes are allowed to rise 20% over a 3-year period of time. While outside of New York City, property taxes are capped at 2% rise. So if you go to Long Island or you live in Westchester, your property taxes will not rise more than 2%. So I like to see we not exempt New York City from that, to cap property tax rise, because a lot of people can't afford New York City. Inflation, as well as other costs, keeps going higher. Our seniors, our veterans, homeowners, they work all their life to purchase their home. I like to see them stay in their home instead of having to look to Florida or to the great state of Texas to see if they can not only afford the place that they want to live, but also keep their way of living standard.
Very good. Now, remaining on the topic of fiscal responsibility and the use of money in our state, every year both the city and state spend billions in their budgets, the number being one of the highest in the entire nation, if not the highest. Despite that, there have been cuts to libraries and public services that New York depends on. What actions would you take to help curb the budget and make New York fiscally responsible?
I think, especially in my time in the last 12 years in government, seeing how the budget works, it just gets bigger and bigger. Good times, unions, corporations, they all get more money. Bad times, they still get a raise. I think the average worker in New York and in the country, they would love to see that too. No matter what it goes up, it just goes to how much. I think we need to go back to a smaller government without having to provide everything to the people. I think people are smart enough to know what they want to do with their life, how they want to live their life. Of course, we have to have a safety net because we all go through bad times. We want to make sure that when we do go through that bad times, that there's a safety net. But otherwise, I would like to see our government much, much smaller.
Thank you. Now, let's circle back to more of your personal life. Now, you've mentioned that you've served the public in many ways, especially since you started politics. Now, serving the public in government can be complemented with the experience of having served as a private citizen. You've already explained your history, but what do you currently do in the community in your daily life?
So I do a lot of activism, not just with the housing group, but also neighbor patrol called Public Safety Patrol in downtown Flushing. During COVID, there was a dramatic rise in attacks on Asians. And several patrol groups have started. I'm part of one of them. But soon afterward, we've been hearing people, neighbors, friends, requesting us to extend our patrol, not just in downtown Flushing, but also to Fresh Meadow, Open Garden, and Bayside. But because of capacity, we have to slowly let it grow out. I'm proud to say that I was able to extend that patrol from downtown Flushing to Fresh Meadow and Bayside. It's still growing, and I don't want people to be confused. We're not, and we cannot replace the MIPD and the officers, but they're handcuffed to what they can do. We're here to work alongside with them, in our volunteer basis. It could be as simple as patrolling a casino park, which we know that very unfortunately, a 13-year-old girl was raped by a migrant that was caught 2 days ago. But it's not always big things. It could be small things. A lot of people ask me, what does politics does? And ultimately, politics is there to serve people. So sometimes we may not be able to change laws, but in our capacity, with the knowledge and experience that we have, we know what's going on in government. We know which programs and services to push. We have that information. A big deal of what I do is educating my fellow Asians. Many of them, first generation, second generation Asians, they don't even have time to learn English. They're working 10-hour shift, 12-hour shift. Yes, they chose this country to go home, but they're also trying to put food on the table. They're working their behinds off, hoping that their kids get to enjoy the American dream and live that out. So a big part of it is educating about their rights, what they can do, what they cannot do, why is it important to go vote, why is it important to call 911. A lot of them tell me, oh, Kenny, I'm not gonna call 911. I call the police, it takes me 2 hours. And I have to continuously educate them. Yeah, it might take 2 hours, but if you don't call, it's not in the system, and it never happened. So a big part of what I do is that, as well as Lions Club, as well as part of a nonprofit, we serve to bring people together around issues like in cases like the SHSAT, we bring people to fight them, homeless shelters, Fresh Meadow Women's Garden, the list goes on.
Yeah, you mentioned the rape of the girl in Casino Park. That was such a tragedy. 13-year-old girl. Thankfully, the guy was captured thanks to the help of the community. Truly, truly tragic. That's permanently scarring. Now, back to crime, since you did bring that up. Despite what the government said, everyone feels that crime is up. And, I just lost me. With bail reform, clean slate, and other laws to favor criminals, this has undoubtedly led to the surge in violent crime, and especially in Flushing, where it is very up this year. In addition to repealing these laws, what other actions would you push to bring down crime and bring back a sense of safety to the communities here in New York City?
We can run down a list of things we can improve and upgrade or install immediately, but the first thing is the tone. Right now, the tone is they're handicapping the police. We need to change that tone. We need to let people know, don't even think about, crime doesn't pay. We obviously should reform the bail reform, totally do away with it. We should not close down Rikers Island. We should not be spending $12 billion, last I checked, $12 billion on building community detention centers. And I have to add, sometimes I scratch my head when they propose these things, because there's a program, a little known program the city and the state have as far as incarcerated individuals. There's actually a city-state program where we can transfer inmates, those that have been convicted, from the city system into the state. So if we do that, say even if they want to close down Rikers, we can send them upstate. In many of these towns upstate, their detention center, the corrections facility, is the whole economy of the town. Now, several of them have shut down the last few years. So we can have a win-win situation where you don't want Rikers, we can send them upstate. Their economy can still run. We get to send a convicted individual somewhere instead of saying, and watch this. After they close that down, they're gonna say, oh, we don't have space, we gotta release them. That's exactly what the Democrats is going to do. I work with them, I know how they work, I know their playbook, that's exactly how they're going to do it. So we have to stop them, and we have to control this crime.
Very good. Speaking of the Democrats, something that recently was paused was congestion pricing, which a lot of Democrats seem to be relieved of, despite the fact that everyone seems to think that it's going to pass. Now, the MTA is the country's best rail network, surprisingly, and part of the lifeblood of New York. However, the system often fails more than succeeds with delays, repairs, and even the unpopular congestion pricing. It's not gone away, it's just been paused, despite having a budget of $20 billion. Given these facts, what should the MTA be doing differently than it is now?
I think congestion pricing is just a fancy word for a cash grab. Again, over my 12 years in government and in politics, looking at their budget, I've not seen them do anything right. All I've seen them is the cost keeps going up. It does. I try to understand this, and I'm not like some Yale graduate or anything like that. When I have time in the office, I look at these budgets and I try to understand, like, why are we spending $1 billion for changing signals? Why does it take so long? And then I Google it and I look at other transportation systems around the world. It doesn't take anywhere near as much money or anywhere near as much time, And I will share a not so secret. The way how they run the system, they run it in a way all these union jobs continue to have jobs throughout the year. They have a schedule where the roads are in non-stop continuous repavement. So none of the union members have a job. Now, I don't have any problem with unions, but that's how the system we're going through, where they continue with taxes, where we can pay, but nothing improves. We have to look at the MTA budget. I haven't looked at the budget in a long time, and I don't want to give misinformation or mispromises about it, but it needs to be cut. Not so long ago, when I was much younger, the MTA used to don't cover so many lines. The lines that do not serve too great a population, they give out independent contracts to small businesses, like buses out in Westchester, busing them into a major transportation corridor. Maybe we should look back into that instead of trying to provide everything for everybody anywhere.
Sounds good. Now, as we come into the final set of questions here, we're going to talk about the future a little. Let's start with the youth. The majority of today's youth are disengaged or disgusted with politics and even life in general. Have you saw youth involvement in your campaign? And if not, how will you engage the youth in your campaign?
We have actually many youth that come volunteer from time to time, once a week during the weekend. They're taking the regions now. I'm hoping that they finish it faster. When I go out with them, I usually try to educate them on civics, on their responsibility. And I tell them, I know they don't care because they're healthy, they're young, they're not worried about healthcare, they're not married, they're not worried about purchasing a home, they don't need to work, so they don't need to worry about all the stuff that many of you are worrying about. And I educate them where civics needs to be taught in our schools. It really does, because they don't know. They're enjoying the system. It's only until when they get to late 30s, okay, maybe early 40s, when they start to pay taxes, actually, and have to be responsible for these bills. That's when they start to learn. But we need to engage. They are our future. It's tough, especially with what they're teaching in schools and these universities. We all know what's going on in Columbia University, at Stanford, at MIT. We need to reintroduce civics in school, and not just in the third grade. If we could, like a refresher course every single year, so it ingrains in them. Even for immigrants, because they easily forget. No disrespect, a lot of times I tell my fellow Asians, with white people, you don't need to remind them. They know at a certain time of the year is voting time. They don't need any flyer, they can go online and they can look for it. For Asians, I have a joke. If there's $1 on the ground, we don't need half a reason to pick that up. But when it comes time to voting, there's 10,900 reasons why we don't vote or forgot to vote. I'm working with a lot of community groups to try to ingrain in them where they vote more often, because I've seen how government react when you guys vote. When you guys, our elected officials react fastest to two things: your donations and your votes. They don't need a survey. When they see the voting patterns, when they see the donations drop, they react really pronto. We have to introduce civics, and we have to engage our children, because whether we like it or not, they are our future, and we just have to keep on trying and trying.
Very good. Now, you brought up something in that what they're teaching in schools. It's not a very good thing. Now, my question regarding education, we've talked about the youth, and we're talking about it again. They're our future, yet politicians, they seem to be taking them for granted. With the class size mandate that will reduce seats in schools, especially the specialized schools, the attacks on the SAT, which I know you've been an advocate for, and an ordinance from the State Attorney General, Letitia James, to add on an LGBTQ curriculum. What are you planning to do to fight back against the attacks on education that you haven't already been doing now?
I think we should defund the education system, but not in the defund per se. I've been thinking a lot the last few years with what they're doing in schools. The ICRT, shrinking class sizes. None of it makes sense, because just with shrinking class sizes, I don't know where to come up with this, because there's not even enough schools. So you make it smaller. Instead of 35 kids per class, 20 kids. Yes, it's better. They would pay attention better. The teacher would be able to teach better. Yes, but where are the schools? So before mandating smaller class sizes, build the schools. You build the schools, then we can move it. And with education, with all the stuff that they're teaching and ramming it through the curriculum, parents don't know. I think we should seriously consider education vouchers. So nice and simple. You have one child. Well, we already know that we spend about $30,000 to educate a child per year. So we get to choose: charter, private school, religious school. I don't care. You, the parent and the family, have full control of where they should send their kids. So if certain schools require a test, take the test, okay? But it's in your power. Right now, with the Department of Education and the union, the UFT, the way how they're running the show, it's not right. It cannot happen. And with what? Boy, girl, I don't know what in between, okay? Let's keep it simple, really simple. I really hate them, okay, to play any games, okay, in our children's lives.
Very good. Now, to wrap this up, Ken Peake, you didn't show up tonight. Why do you think that is?
I know this is a competition and a campaign. From what I read, he is a very decent guy. He served his time for our country. He served many years in the NYPD. I don't want to venture into guessing why he's not here, but let's just do the best we could and respect the election results. And I'm sure win, lose, or whatnot, afterward, hopefully we sit down and figure out a way how we can move forward, because he's not my enemy. I don't think he's my enemy. Yes, this could be a battle. I expect a low turnout, but our end game is to knock out these Democrats. They have a supermajority in the Senate. They have a supermajority in the Assembly that will take a lot of time to. And as I promised Assembly Minister Chang, I'm not here, I didn't switch party or run this year just to run. I'm here also to build the party from the ground up, because from what I've seen, it requires a lot of building. It requires a lot of outreach. There are a lot of neighborhoods that don't even know, as other guests has mentioned, what the Republican Party stands for. They don't know where to go to, so they may be pissed off at Democrats. Where's the other option? They need to know that they have another option. They need to know that Republicans are in their community, Republicans are in their districts, and we're ready to fight. We need to bring them in. So people like me that switched last year, I hope my Republican friends, new friends, can accept me for who I am. I stood up for our values for many years. I hope that we accept other folks, other voters that switch. We need to grow this party. The fact is, there's not enough Republicans in my district or anywhere in New York City to fight this fight. So it's a long battle, but we have to continue it.
Now, follow-up question. Let's say in the worst case scenario for you, you end up losing to Ken Peake. Would you be endorsing him or even helping him for the general election?
People that know me know that I'm a team player. I would have no problem sitting down with him to really figure things out. But it also depends on how he runs his campaign. I'm only one person, right? If my whole team is pissed off, and I'm going to sit down with Mr. Peake, and work things out without consulting my team, without caring about how hard they work in the rain, in the cold, in the wind. It's very disrespectful to my team. It's not just about me. As much as we are running, it's not just about me. It's also about my team. It's also about our supporters, our donors, and the voters. So, but I promise you, and everybody here, if I could, I would do my best to really sit down and work something out.
Very good. All right, that ends my questions. So we'll take some from the audience. You in the yellow.
I have two questions. First one, do you know the idea of Republican Party? Second one, do you support Donald Trump and vote for Donald Trump? Why?
Let me first answer the easier one, supporting Donald Trump. I said earlier, I do support Donald Trump, and I would definitely vote for Donald Trump. Second, right before I switch, I actually did look up Republican Party principles, and I support the Republican Party principle of smaller government, free market economy, protecting Second Amendment rights, and I'm pro-choice with what individuals do in America. I don't have the best of memory, but I agree with all of them.
Can you define pro-choice? What does that mean? Oh, sorry. Can you define pro-choice and what that means to you?
I don't mean pro-choice as in abortion, but in general, every American should be able to choose for themselves, for their family. And since I brought up abortion, I speak pretty candidly, and other people have asked. Even in my time with the Democratic Party when they're having those discussions, I'm always thinking, every time they talk about half the equation, what to do with women, females, when they're pregnant. But there's another whole half of the conversation that we don't discuss because we know that they don't get pregnant themselves. So what are we doing with the men that are impregnating these ladies? That being said, in general, I am against abortion. We cannot have people going to the clinic feel like it's a dental clinic and you just need to clean it up. We can't. We should introduce lots of education in the community so they understand the responsibility of what becoming a parent is. We need to prepare them. But who am I, even as a legislature, to tell somebody what they can or cannot do with their body?
So, I have a follow-up.
Your experience, did you say you're in the government now, or you were in the government? Maybe I wasn't following.
I got my start 12 years ago, 2012, and I worked in the Assembly for 2 years before moving over to City Council.
Someone shut that phone off, please?
And then the State Senate. The last few years I've been doing a political consultant, and in between, a lot of advocacy.
Hey, let's be real here. The
reason why Kenneth Peake is not here is because county told him not to come here. All right, he's not an endorsed candidate, and neither am I. If I went to the Middle Village Republican Club the other day, and Craig Karuna said that I'm not allowed to speak, and I'm sure you aren't either. So my question to you is, if I hope that you win, but if you don't win, are you comfortable in forming our own coalition so that we can take the power back of the Queens Republicans and not have to rely on Tony Nunziato and Joe Kincannon, who both of them single-handedly have crushed the Queens Republican Party. So are you comfortable in forming your own coalition with people like me to take our city back?
I really don't know why Mr. Peck is not here.
Because county told him not to come, plain and simple.
But what I can tell you through my actions in the last 12 years, in the Democratic Party, now in the Republican Party, and in the future. As much as I'm in the party, I'm not dictated by what the party decides. Just as I fought de Blasio on the SHSAT, I fought him on the shelters, Rikers Island. Many people have told me, Kenny, you're young, you got a long way to go. You don't need to piss off the mayor. You don't need to piss off the governor, you know. I didn't stop. I still went after them. So if it's the right thing, I will do the right thing, the right way. So since I'm on record, if the Republican Party comes to me one day and asks me to do something or vote on something that I actually don't agree, even if it might cost my re-election, I won't do it. I promise you.
How would you deal with somebody who has TDS, Trump derangement syndrome?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure what that means.
That means they're psychotic. When you say you don't know what it means, I'm not sure what you mean by that.
There's some people, when the whole mention of Donald Trump, or anything that you thought that was good, they just go bananas and they say, he's evil, and it's this a trick, and it's a lie, and it's a devil. In other words, everything that's wrong is because of Donald Trump. Okay? Everything. Doesn't matter, even if it didn't happen yet. All right? So what he's saying is, what's your opinion about Trump? How do you handle it? I think, sir, he said, how do you handle Trump?
I think the best way to handle it is just leave him alone. I mean, I feel I'm pretty patient because I trained individuals with mental retardation for 8 years. You know, sometimes you just gotta let people be who they are. You know, just get out of their way. You know, just let it be. You know, we can't win every conversation. We can try. We'll talk to them, but if they just let it be.
We'll take two more. So, Jerry?
You're familiar with Bobby Ann Cox. She has went against Governor Hochul's internment camps for people who don't want to be vaccinated. Or she just can say that, oh, well, we think you may have a communicable disease. We can lock you up and there's no way for you to get out of it. So she lost her court case. She's on appeal. You file an amicus brief before you get elected, and then when you get elected, you file legislation so that they can't do that to us.
I'm not familiar with the case. I really am not. And I don't want to say something wrong. I will look into it. But generally with mandates, it's just like laws. In Germany, there are some highways. There's no speed limit, but it's amazingly safe. So with these masks, if your neighborhood or if individuals want to wear a mask, go ahead. You know, if other folks don't want to, let it be. You know, if you think that, oh, this neighborhood, they go unmasked, it's dangerous, okay, or it's unhealthy, no one asked you to come down there. You know, vice versa. So we should not have any of these mandates. And as it has been proven, and I actually, honestly, I once thought it was scientific too, until I started seeing the reports, okay, and it was absolutely false. Yeah, so no mandates.
I have a question. Martha.
Oh, first of all, I would strongly encourage you to learn as much as you can about these internment camps, because it is a really horrendous situation. But the question that I wanted to ask was connected with a question that Isaiah asked you about education. and what's going on these days with what they're teaching students. And I'm wondering if you would support first of all, support legislation for parents' rights about things like vaccination and the education and control of their children. But also, would you support legislation like some other states have had, like Florida for CRT, saying for young children that this is not appropriate? And also, make legislation, support legislation that other states like Tennessee and Florida and others have put through to protect children from being pushed into this transing of children and teaching children that they should question their sex and their who they are. If I'm talking about sensible legislation. Would you support that kind of legislation?
First, I find that what they allowed to do in the Department of Education is despicable. Absolutely despicable. Number one, they don't educate the parent. They don't tell them the curriculum. Number two, our children are very impressionable. They don't know what's right or wrong. A lot of this stuff, okay, that you see that's happening at the university is because it just didn't happen. It was, the seeds were planted when they were in elementary school. You know, so they're told that it's right. They're told that that they question. I'm trying to find the right word. They question that their sex. They question, are they men, not boys or girls? That's it. Absolutely despicable. When I went to school, it was very simple: math, science, history, civics. Very simple. So if they want to teach all the extracurricular activities or programs or whatever, they can, okay, but they need to get the parents' consent. They can't just put up a curriculum without telling parents. You know, it needs to be very absolutely transparent. And while I'm on that, I believe the best way to force them to change is probably pushing for education vouchers, because right now the union have a lock on the Department of Education and on many of these politicians. You know, 250,000 votes against a lot of votes. You know, we need to issue education where parents are empowered. So if they want to take their kid out of the public system, they want to go private, charter school, independent school, religious school, they ought to have that power.
Very good.
Okay, thank you very much. We want to thank
Can I make a request? I know Mr. Cho out back there. He's been dying to ask a question.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, you talk in front of the Chinese media, say you're going to put a straight gun control law after you get elected. But why now you say you support the Second Amendment? So what I want to find out is the statement you're talking about to put a straight law to control the gun is a joke, or are you serious about that? Because the New York State already have the most straight gun control law in the country. So how far you want to go? I mean, are you serious about your statement, or it's just a joke? Because you just tell me that you support the Second Amendment.
If I'm understanding correctly, it's about gun control, right?
Yeah.
All right. Even as a Democrat, all the way back, I don't know how many years, I've never really been against the Second Amendment. That's federal law. That's part of the Constitution, part of our rights. You know, but what we need to control is who can have that gun. We cannot have illegal migrants have that gun. We cannot have people that are crazy to have those guns. We need to have a better system, to make sure that those guns do not get into their hands to hurt more people.
No straight gun control law already. So how straight you still want to go? Because in New Jersey, we buy ammunition. There's no background check. In New York, we buy ammunition. There's a background check. And people may get their ammunition 2 days after, or they never get their ammunition. So it's already very straight compared to other states in this country. So how far you still want to go?
Honestly, I don't know all the rules and regulations. I will look into it. But the two types that I just mentioned, we definitely don't want guns in
So
their
that
hands.
means you do not do a research before you stay there.
I would love to have the time to know every single piece of legislation. So if that's what you mean, yeah, I didn't do enough.
Research.
Anyway, I want to thank you very much, Kenneth Chiu, for coming today.